Have you had a pit lane accident at work? From faulty brakes to a colleague's inattention, whatever has caused your injury, Jackman Legal could get compensation for you. One simple call to the experts at Jackman Legal could net you a cash...
Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. He's Richard.
Hello.
He's Zog.
Hello.
I'm Gareth, and I don't really speak much Spanish. Did you see the Spanish Grand Prix, boys? Did you enjoy that?
Si.
Oh, very good.
Is that's
yeah?
country? Yes.
Yeah, it is. It is now. Did you enjoy it, Richard? Correct.
Yeah, right. I didn't.
It happens
It was
every...
a bit dull, wasn't it? Bit dull.
I don't know any Spanish. Dos cervezas, por favor.
That's all you need to know.
And what my mate C, who thinks he can speak foreign languages but can't, told me to say when you want two more beers, dos otros, por favor, which turns out to be wrong.
That's two other beers.
That's two others, yes.
Yeah, two others.
It sounds weird, but it worked. I have managed to get two other beers.
But they were different to the brand you've been drinking previously.
Yeah, but it's two other types of beers.
The Barcelona Grand Prix, every year, people say, oh, there's no overtaking at the Barcelona Grand Prix, but I have to disagree. There is a fine example of overtaking every year at the Spanish Grand Prix at Circuit de Catalunya. It is where our hopes for action on track are overtaken by the reality of a processional race. It doesn't give the best racing, that circuit, for all its medium speed glory, does it?
It does tend to be a bit of a dull one. And somebody phoned me in the latter part of the race, and I wasn't actually sufficiently engaged in the race to say, could you call back in an hour? You know, so I spent a good quarter of an hour towards the end of the race chatting away. And
was that Nico Hulkenberg actually phoned you from the race for a chat?
Probably. But
he was pretty unengaged himself, I think, at that point.
It was Jenson Button, you know, he's having one of those relaxed moments where it's sort of like, oh, well, you know.
Always very relaxed.
Always seems to have doesn't do it.
Very relaxed.
He was a bit less relaxed this weekend. So
there was a bit of that narkiness on the radio, yeah.
McLaren a bit scary this time.
Alonso arrived in the pits with no front brakes because they'd worn out because the rear energy recovery system, which had been doing some retardation, failed to work. So his front brakes had been overworked and given up. Terrifying. It's a comedy of errors.
It was a bad week to be a front jack operator.
Yeah.
Bad year to be in a McLaren Honda too, yeah?
I don't get that. Well, I do get that. They're just having a bad time of it. But that, they said it was caused by a tear-off. So it was a piece of bad luck.
Yeah,
it wasn't some kind of failing out.
I hadn't heard that. What? Causing it to overheat and shatter or something?
It made something overheat. I don't know what overheat.
Right.
But what I liked
Alonso
was during the race, that we saw that thing with Alonso and then they retired him and brake problems. Several laps went by and then we heard the radio transmission that went, yeah, Jenson, Fernando's problem won't affect us. For those laps, he'd been going around going, yeah, guys, my brake's going to be okay. Any further indications? Well, I imagine he was
Can
anyway.
I use the brake pedal? Is
yeah.
that okay?
Just phoning in again. It's
Tell
me,
me what bit of this
Jenson,
car I can use.
Just wondering, are my brakes about to give out at any moment, sending me hurtling into a wall? And eventually they were able to say, no, it's all fine. It's just a one-off piece of bad luck, but not a one-off piece of bad luck, because bad luck just seems to follow McLaren around like the smell of that Honda engine not working properly again.
Yeah, well, you still have the bad luck of being stuck in a painfully slow McLaren Honda.
I thought, that, joking aside about... They are, I'm sure they are. But the engine is obviously the main problem, because I sort of got the feeling from different things that have been said that actually the chassis was believed to be pretty good, and there's a lot of clever packaging within it. They just need to get it all working properly. But then Button's complaining about the handling and saying he's sort of getting understeer and oversteer and a new kind of steer that no one's ever experienced before, but was even worse. And you think, well, that sounds like the chassis doesn't work properly either. Certainly not that circuit. I don't know what's going on. There's got some problem with their aero or their actual suspension. I don't know.
Well, I think they said, I can't remember who said it, but someone at McLaren had said that there's a knock-on effect from the engine problems that are affecting what they can do with the chassis, essentially.
Okay.
So
literally
the fact
something's
that
knocking against something else.
I
Very tightly
don't
packaged. It really is. Oh, and we haven't even mentioned the new colour scheme either.
It's quite good, actually.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It looks all right, but the old one looked all right as well. It's it rather defies that old adage.
Before. It was,
that motorsport adage, if something looks good, it probably is. That
if it looks fast, it is. It probably is, yeah.
I reckon...
But then there's also the saying that if something is fast, it suddenly looks better.
That's true.
A car,
I reckon
the faster it goes.
The whole paint scheme thing is actually an example of magicians' misdirection at the moment. It's like, oh yes, look at our paint scheme. No, don't mention the engine. They're trying to misguide us into thinking about some other aspect. And we like the colour, the graphite.
What I don't quite get is they have supposedly saved about 2 kilos of weight by changing the paint.
Is that right?
Which is an interesting echo of old-style silver arrows. So, and back in the 1930s, supposedly when Mercedes were overweight for a race, they came up with the idea of just stripping all the paint off the cars, which saved enough weight to get them just under the limit, and they were okay. So this has echoes of that famous event.
What was heavier in the old one then? Silver paint?
It was, any paint weighs something.
Yeah.
And if you've got metal painted with silver paint, the cars aren't going to look that different if you just strip off the paint and get down to the bare aluminium.
No, but on the new one, on the current McLaren I'm talking about, why is it lighter to do it graphite?
Because the previous one had the metallic flake in it. That silver that they had, the chrome, had metallic flake in it.
Right.
It was like a 1970s Bugle dune buggy, really.
Yeah. But the question I have is, and I totally see how changing paint could save a bit of weight.
Yeah, that's why they don't paint
but
the
why does it? Is
tank.
it really making... I mean, they have to work within the weight limits of that the regulations lay down. Is taking 2 kilos off sort of, I suppose, roughly the centre of the body on average, is that really making enough difference to the way they can distribute weight? Because that's what it...
It's just the handling
that's
problem.
Where they're going to get the benefit, is in distributing the weight differently.
Paint it back, because it's making the car handle weird. It was set up to be flaky silver. No, it's not. Is that true about the shuttle tank? Because I remember when the shuttle was originally flying, wasn't the middle tank white? Like the rest
that's
of them,
correct.
It looked rather snazzy, and then they suddenly went, we're going to do this kind of
the external tank was
look.
Painted white, I think, for the first 2 shuttle launches, Columbia, and then from STS3 onwards, they didn't bother painting it. They left it that oxidising orange, saving so much fuel that the shuttle could carry an extra 200 kilograms to orbit.
So can you imagine
because the effective weight, particularly at the moment of takeoff, any weight you can save at that point is significant, really.
Anyway, we digress.
Poor
but the
McLaren.
McLaren thing is...
It's sad. But did you see in practice, also, nothing to do with McLaren, but talking about extreme engineering, Maldonado's rear end of his Lotus exploded in practice. Did you see that?
That was quite spectacular. But, the thing that was great about that, and there's not usually anything great about bits of cars exploding, but nobody was hurt, so it's okay. But you got a sense of just how much force is being applied to things through the aerodynamics at high speed on an F1 car. The way that the bodywork at the back in a moment tore itself apart and scattered.
I used to work in a quarry, in a laboratory in a quarry in North Wales a long time ago. And in a quarry you have all this sort of industrial equipment, a high pressure air hose being one. I remember being given this briefing when I was 18 years old, fresh out of school. With a high pressure air hose, right, don't mess with it. Don't ever spray it at someone. If you squirt it at someone, if you've got a cut in your skin, it'll rip that cut open. Air will get underneath. It'll do.
Well, if you get air bubbles in your bloodstream, that could be a very bad thing.
In eyelids, it'll pop eyes out. Don't chase someone around the backside with it. That'll really
don't search in any orifice.
You could inflate one of your colleagues.
You could horribly, and that's exactly what you're talking about here. The level of air pressure ducted over the careful aerodynamic management of stuff got in under where it wasn't supposed to be at the rear of Maldonado's Lotus and just literally exploded like a brown paper bag going over a compressed air hose. It was spectacular, terrifying and bizarre.
What did you do with a high pressure airline then in a quarry? What was it meant for? Not mucking around.
Not mucking around with cleaning stuff off and inflating tyres and driving equipment that used a gas air supply.
Did you ever do it? You shouldn't have done with it.
No.
A balloon.
It's a
really fast.
Balloon.
Really fast,
But I'll tell you another story about vehicles in the quarry, but that's for another chat, another day. But I saw that Lotus explode on there, and I saw the word Lotus written all over that car, and I thought, I wonder, has anyone from Hethel ever been to Enstone? Really? Ever even been there to sign a document to say you call yourselves Lotus if you want? And then it occurred to me that Enstone was the perfect name for the next road-going Lotus if they want to build the
Lotus Sandstone.
Makes perfect sense.
Oh, hey, by the way, I'll tell you this.
And why didn't you call the Exige Ethel without the H?
The Ethel. It's a very Norfolk name. Ethel.
Go on, tell me quickly.
No, I'll tell you really quickly. No, I've been writing Sniff Petrol website 14 years.
Whoa.
And never in that time has a car maker ever asked me to pull a story. You know, they've always rolled with the punches and gone, yeah, fair play, you know, you'll be having a go at someone else tomorrow or next week. All that changed this week.
What did you do?
Asked to remove a story politely, but firmly. Would you mind taking this down? Is there any way you could drop this story? We think it's unfair.
Which story?
Well, it was about Lotus. So you can guess who asked me to pull it down. I know. For shame. For shame on Lotus, yeah.
No. Always been fantastic, I have to say, my experiences.
Bit sensitive, I think, because I compared the new management with the old management and Danny Baha, and they thought that was quote-unquote unfair. And,
dear.
And they said, would you be able to take the story down? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, because you can't.
There you
It's
go.
been said.
So, you know, just to reiterate, if you're listening, though, just sod off. Hi everyone, welcome to Stress Counselling. As usual, I'll be going round the room and asking everyone to say one thing that's causing them stress this week. Kevin, why don't you start?
Well, I just feel that, you know, maybe I just don't have control of my life and that there's just no point to it.
Kevin, there is a point to your life. Remember, you have hope. Juliet, you next.
Well, this week, I guess I feel like I just don't get on with people. Or they don't get on with me.
Juliet, you do get on with people. Just remember, you have hope. OK, who's next? Fernando.
Okay, well, my stress is the same as last week. It's my new job. You know, I've been doing it for a few months and it's just not going well. And I think maybe I've made a very stupid choice.
Fernando, you have made a stupid choice. Remember, you have no hope.
I thought you were supposed to be encouraging.
Encouraging, yes, but I'm not going to lie to you. Is your friend Jenson coming this week?
No, he's got a sore throat.
As usual.
Sniff Petrol with Gareth Jones on speed!
Do you know what? My oldest son, number one son, he's 14 now. He's nearly 15, so I decided to give him a name. I think it's about time he had a proper name.
Good idea. Yeah, I'm tired of calling him thing.
Yeah, he's called Tycho. That's what we decided to call him. Tycho had a remarkable observation about Formula One the other day. Watching the start gave him inspiration. He said, Dad, you know how Formula E is kind of exciting at the moment because you don't know who's going to make it through the last lap, right? You just don't know, and that helps the excitement. They could do the same with Formula One if, when they started the race, the teams didn't know exactly how many laps they had to do. Exactly how many laps they have to do. You know, when the lights go on at the beginning, they come on and they stay on for, what is it, between 3 and 5 seconds or something like that, and you don't know. They're going to go at some point.
It's randomised by a computer, isn't it?
A computer, that's right, yeah. And so, why not, when they start the race, they'll say to the teams, guys, you're going to have between 53 and 58 laps. Now, you gamble on how much fuel you put in if you want. The lighter you'll run, the more chance you'll have of winning.
Why is it not a good idea? Because if you introduce that element of chance, that element of encouraging people to take a chance on something, roll the dice, you're then reducing the extent to which the sport is what it aspires to be, this area of motorsport where everything is done as well as it can possibly be done. You've got the best drivers, the best technology, everything is tuned up and refined to the max. And that means your fuel calculations as well.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get fuel just right rather than a bunch of clowns who are just guessing how many laps they have to run.
Do you know what?
Your best guess?
Yeah, about 100 litres will do it.
There's kind of fuel-saving tactics that go on anyway.
Yeah.
Drive me nuts. I was thinking they should be
But
forced
it's always
to
been
the
a
whole
part,
time.
but
I know,
it's not like it's a
part of the
new
cleverness,
thing. You know,
but I just take that kind of, you hear the radio message and you go, okay, you know, just stick it in top gear and then just cruise around like a bloody mini cab for a bit. It doesn't feel like that's what racing should be, and this just seems to encourage it. What I wouldn't mind, though, maybe if it was some kind of wildcard thing, because a friend of mine who's in the army told me about this when he was doing his training. You would do a sort of 20-kilometre yomp across sodden moorland in the pouring rain with a half-ton backpack on, and
somebody shouting at you.
Somebody shouting at you. Invariably, they have a moustache, which makes their shouting more intense.
Oh, he was in the Girl Guides.
That's right. And you get to the lorry that's the finish point, and just as you're approaching it as a pack, doing all that stuff on approach. I don't think they really do that.
No, I think they do.
In a Marmite advert. And then just as you get to it, it drives off.
No.
And it'll drive then for another mile across the moorland.
And that's military humour.
I know. No, it's not even humour. That's just because it is all about this kind of thing. It's just teaching you that just when you think it's over, it's not over. Because war doesn't go, okay, that's it. It's done.
Yeah. 6 o'clock, we're going to knock off now, lads. No more fighting.
Incredibly unionised war. British Leyland at war. All right, everybody out of the trenches. What are the Germans doing? They're keeping on working. It's a bit weird. One day they'll probably be doing that in their factories as well, the bloody idiots. No, we've closed down.
Although, of course, you do occasionally get that thing where people do take advantage of when they know people aren't going to be keen on fighting because it's a holiday.
Yes.
Yom Kippur.
Yeah, or Christmas Day.
Yeah,
in
very
the trenches,
popular.
famously.
Yeah.
Game of football.
So,
or you carry on with your actually much more sensible point. Just do that. Some races just go, no, what do you think you're doing? Stop slowing down. That's not a checkered flag. We've just decided to tack another couple of laps onto this because it was getting interesting. I wouldn't mind that so much.
Everyone's enjoying this race. We're going to have another 10 laps of it.
But then also they could end it early. I mean, that Spanish Grand Prix, I'll be honest, because I had to get ready. We were going up to the BAFTAs who get us, and I needed to get changed to put my black tie on, and I was thinking, oh God, I wish they'd just wrap this up. I think we know who's going to win. Let's just finish it now.
Yeah, it was pretty obvious. Tycho's other idea was equally good, I think. It's a good idea. There are flaws in it, but it's worth discussion. That's interesting enough. But his other idea was that there's like a 7-second gap between the front of the field at the moment and the back of the field. Why not, after qualifying, why don't they change the fuel flow rate for the teams at the back of the grid? So if you're in the top third, you're allowed a certain amount of fuel per second. If you're in the middle section of the grid, you get a certain plus a little bit more, and at the back even more, and that will bring the whole grid further together. Now, strategy-wise,
but you're then rewarding people for doing worse than qualifying, and that's not a good thing.
So the answer is to be better in the middle, to be perfectly in the middle and try and win the race from there with the most efficient car.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Then you get that tactic of going, oh, could you just be average?
Yeah. Well, you know what they do in GP2?
Any qualifying formula that encourages people to do anything other than go out and do the quickest lap they can is wrong.
Yeah.
Have you seen what they do in GP2? The grid is decided.
I don't think anyone's seen what they do in GP2.
Not even the drivers.
That's the problem with GP2.
Here's the problem. The top 8 finishing results, they swap it for the start. The guy who finished 8th starts on pole, and the guy who finished on pole starts 8th. That mixes up a championship for. I think that's a bit severe, that is. It's not tightening up the grid, it's completely reversing it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think people have suggested that from time to time in F1, but it never gets very far.
You're 8th, but do you want to stick with 8th? Or do you want to gamble everything for pole on the following question? What is the capital of Peru?
Lima.
Yeah, well, I'm supposed to
You get half a second.
Yeah, I am, after all, a Peruvian driver, so I should have got that one. But thanks, anyway. But they can do that. It's a very game show.
You get a Saturday night game show along with the Grand Prix.
Lots of people watch Saturday night game shows. Bernie seems to be obsessed with making sure that he maximises the audience for Formula One, draws in new people. Why not do that? Just some kind of singing competition.
It's a crazy
Really? What, Motorsport's Got Talent? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm just talking rubbish.
Good. That's what
I don't believe any of these things, but I don't know. I mean, if they're looking for stuff, they mix it up a bit. There's always like that reverse grid and things like that that they do in various formulas and things. I don't know. I mean, again, it's sort of, you're being punished for being the best in a weird way. I know it does make it more interesting for fans, potentially, and let's be honest, that should be priority, but it does seem like, for a racing driver's point of view, you just go, what?
But I think the reverse grid thing only really works when you've got 2 races on the same day or 2 races on the same weekend, and your second race starting positions are a reverse grid of the results from the first race.
Yeah.
I think for me that's the only time it really works. But in terms of the Barcelona Grand Prix, what do we feel about Nick actually won this one?
Actually
put one over on Lewis. Is that going to be the start of his substantial challenge this year? Is it reset for Nico, or is it going to be
I don't think it is. I think there's something that we don't know about the state of the engines of the 2 cars. I think Lewis is consistently quicker than Nico, but sometimes you've got a car with an engine that's at the end of its mileage cycle, and maybe Nico had a car engine which they didn't have to throttle down a little bit. I'm not talking conspiracy here, I'm talking for logical explanations as to why Lewis apparently lost some speed. There has to be a rational, scientific, engineering explanation for it, because Lewis is quicker than Nico.
He is, but also Nico, on his day, when he gets it all right, he's terrific. And I think that was just one of those races where he had it all together, he had his head on properly, the car was right, and he started on pole. And he wasn't troubled by anything, he didn't make any mistakes, and so Lewis, partly because he had Vettel in the way for so long, couldn't catch him.
I like that, again, a little window into the racing driver's mind, that point at which Hamilton was sort of, he's like 20 seconds behind, and there were only 20 laps to go, I think. It was something like that. Basically, we'd have to make up a second a lap at that point. And he was on the radio going, is it possible? Is it possible? Is it going to be possible? It's like he wants to know the odds, but, he could sort of sit there at home going, pretty sure that's impossible, but I like the fact that because the engineer was sort of going, it's not looking possible, it's probably not possible, but that's the thing, any scintilla of doubt, and Hamilton was like, but is it possible? If he'd gone, well, if there's a miracle, that's all I need. Then he just
and he might have done it
to the board,
which is good because he was sounding a bit more rattled earlier on.
Yeah, in the race. But honestly, in a world where we didn't have fuel saving and engine saving and things like that, the engineer just go, mate, knock yourself out. Go on, have a go, see what happens. And just to watch Hamilton driving out of his skin to try and take on Rosberg, because not only he's got to catch him, when he gets there, he's got to go past him, and it would have been immense if it had happened. But no, they went, oh, do you know what? Look after the engine. Oh, don't wear the tyres out. They're quite expensive.
That's all right. I don't mind that too much, because in historical motor racing, the days of the Grand Prix, having to manage your tyres to get through the race was part of it. And to just occasionally throttle back your big D50 Lancia, that sort of thing has always been part of it.
Well, it has, but in the old days you used to have to manage your diet so you didn't get scurvy. I mean, it doesn't mean it was good, does it? We can move on from these things.
Hello, sir. Welcome to Avert's Car Rental. Do you have a reservation with us?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you do, or no, you don't?
Yeah, no, I do have a reservation. It's in the name of Christian Horner.
Great, let's see. Yes, Mr. Horner, that booking is on the system, and today we have for you a Renault.
Yeah, no, I don't want a Renault.
Well, I'm afraid that's the car that's been allocated.
Yeah, no, that's a totally uncompetitive choice. I want an Audi.
I'm very sorry, sir, but we can't confirm an Audi at the moment. But you have an existing booking, which is a Renault.
Yeah, no, if you don't get me an Audi, I'm quitting this whole thing.
Sir, are you sure?
Yeah, no.
Or are you just saying that as a threat in the hope that it will make the Renault better?
Yeah, no.
Which is it?
Yeah, no.
Right, well, there is another option, Mr. Horner. You could take this Infinity.
No.
Everyone always says that.
Gareth Jones on speed.
Forgive me for openly directing us towards a bit of Formula One product placement, but do you notice that this? I'm talking about the Lotus a lot this week. That Lotus had Mad Max written on the side. Did you see that?
I noticed that. Unusual to see a film advertised.
It does happen.
Batman was the last one, was it?
Toyota did Batman. Red Bull have had Superman-related things as well, haven't they?
Yeah,
do you remember?
right, yeah.
But they've built it all. There is a car in the new Mad Max movie that's a sort of a Formula One car. Have you seen it? It's got all the proportions of a contemporary, this year, last year, F1 car. But it's sort of made out of Archaeos steel and tractor wheels. And it actually looks...
A bit more ground clearance, I'm guessing, to deal with
Yes, that in
Australian
the film,
outback.
or did they just make that as
I'm
a
not
tie-in?
sure.
I thought they just built it as a tie-in with the
they?
Lotus thing. I could be wrong, because I think the cars from the film are all based on cars. There's a Cadillac one, and there's this thing, I saw some stills of it.
There's a lot of quite big stuff in that. Not
Yeah.
just little.
But they put Maldonado in the car for a photo opportunity. And it's kind of digging his own grave, isn't it? Because all the comments on social media were, there you go, that's the sort of car he needs to survive a race. He pulled his car apart on the race. How did he do that?
Still can't figure out how he damaged that bit of the car.
What? How? He's clearly a genius. I love
Unless...
But again, the flexing of that wing again showed you something about how much force is going into those things.
Do you think maybe it was minutely damaged by the exploding engine cover or something?
It's possible.
That was the other side, though, wasn't it? I don't know.
No, because it sort of exploded off, and you could imagine bits hitting almost any of the rear wing.
But what we really should talk about was something I heard sniffing around today. There are some rumours, no more than that, allegations, that a couple of teams are sidestepping the fuel flow rules. You know, this whole fuel flow thing that we were talking about a moment ago. That in order to never go over their limited fuel rate, they have an additional tank of fuel, which after the first couple of laps tops up, and there's a separate feed into the engine, which bypasses the...
Well, is that what it is? I've heard they were doing something clever with basically the way that the pressure sort of changes down the fuel line, if you like. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I hadn't heard about another tank, but what I'd heard...
There's a mode.
Basically, if you take a really simple case, if you've got a tube and you're forcing liquid under pressure down it, if you suddenly increase the pressure at one end, the pressure at the other end doesn't increase straight away. It takes a while for that pressure increase to get down there, particularly if in the way you've got all sorts of components and bends and bits and maybe pumps and meters and whatever. And it's some trick to do with the way that changes in pressure in the system make their way from one bit to the other that they're exploiting.
Are they opening up a bypass valve, like a little siding that goes around the outside of the meter?
I don't think they're doing anything that involves a valve or an extra pipe. This is the impression I've got. I don't know. Please, if anybody knows, please tell us. But
Dear Zog, I work for an F1 team, and I'll tell you exactly... Oh, no!
Well, exactly, yes. I will tell you
said?
exactly what we're doing. Here you are. So obviously nobody's going to tell us, even if
I don't know if you are. Please do.
Yeah, we won't mention it, I swear. They're doing some clever trick to do with designing the exact volume of that bit of pipe, and then the exact volume of that bit of pipe, and then the curvature of that bit, and maybe the flexibility of those walls there, so that if they increase the fuel flow from the pump a certain amount, it will keep it just below the acceptable metered level.
Yeah.
But further down the line, they get more benefit than they're supposed to because of the way the pressure changes. I'm just saying they're doing something really clever with basically pressure waves in a liquid that is being pumped around the engine.
I get you. And you're relying on that lag to be able to increase it. If you withdraw it quick enough, you'll increase it to very short bursts.
I don't know. Something
interesting.
It's something
like
that.
Like
ramjet.
I like the way that the FIA thus far has just said, we've just reminded all the teams that there's some fuel flow regulations, and just reminding you. They've not said you're cheating. You lot are cheating. Stop it. Presumably, this is maybe it's so subtle and so clever. They can't quite prove it at the moment. So they just cleared their throats and gone, just remember.
And I think that reminder or that little notice, it's just a reminder that the regulation doesn't just say that, as I understand it, you've got to stay within those metered usage, but also if you're coming up with something clever to get around the metering to provide the effect of more flow, then that's against the regulations as well. So.
Do you remember how we had all those J gates and what do we call them? F ducts, rather. F ducts, where drivers were having
J
to put
gates is a thing that used to be on jacks.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Confusing.
Did any F1 cars have that?
Well, there was
put it in D and then just
there was a J damper, wasn't there? That's what it was.
Okay.
But the F duct, we had drivers having to cover holes and move their heads and use their elbows and their knees and everything. I bet Manor are managing their fuel flow thing in the same way as well, right? The driver drink bottle.
Probably got that
it's like siphoning the fuel out of an old Ford Escort.
He'll be sucking, getting a mouthful of fuel and squirting it in at key points past the valve like that. Check the Manor driver's breath. I reckon.
I honestly don't think that F1 even cares. Manor could be running a V8. They could be. They've got nitrous going on back there. They're not on the telly. Who's going to know? Also, on that note, have Sauber upset someone in Formula One because they're not appearing on the telly very much, are they? Don't you think? They're just not. You never see them.
They did.
Or is it just we're all expecting that rather nice-looking grey car, and then it turns out it's that awful-looking blue and yellow one? But even so, you don't see it. Thankfully.
I saw 2 shots, I think, of Sauber. I can remember seeing a couple of shots. Yeah, that might be it.
It's odd, isn't it? Are they doing that badly, or are they just... But the McLaren's doing pretty badly, and that fetches up on telly quite a lot. But you never hear radio stuff from them. You never see stuff. I don't know what they've done. Must have said something or something like that, and they've upset somebody.
some legal thing. I don't know.
I think the trouble is they're bang in the middle of the field, and it's like being the middle child, isn't it? You're ignored.
Maybe.
Completely ignored. You'll see what's going on at the top end, you'll see all the disasters at the back, but if you have a perfectly legitimate race in the middle with not much going on,
it's true,
you're going to get ignored.
You don't see the Force Indias very much either.
No. Are they running this year?
I'm not
there you go.
sure.
See,
I don't know. I wonder whether the Sauber thing, though, is Manisha Kaltenbaum, with her incredible legal skills, has negotiated a watertight contract for them to appear more on TV. That's now only turned out that they only appear on Guido van der Gaard's TV.
That's it. You nailed it. That's it.
You see, Richard, with his astute observations, has understood Formula One in a way that the rest of us have missed again. Richard, thank you.
Thank you.
Zog, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to leave you with a song. Here's one. I'm not entirely certain who this is. What did you call it? New Jack Swing earlier on, Richard? Is that right?
I think I know what New Jack Swing is. Yeah. But it probably isn't, because that was like Bobby Brown, New Edition.
Well, I'm not sure, but it was conceived as Kanye East, if that gives you a clue. And it's a song about Lewis. Actually, it's about Lewis in the past. There was a moment in time where Lewis really annoyed the hell out of us for one reason or other, mainly talking about religion and being miserable at the same point. So this is a snapshot of that moment. It's called Woah Lewis. See ya.
My man, I'm an MC and a fan. I love the way you drive your hot rod, but I'm worried right now how you say you found God. Like a big bug rapper, you like to praise the Lord, but to me it's a sign that you could be getting bored. Racing one of Ross Brawn's carts is the nearest thing we've got to a god round these parts. Woah Lewis, don't wanna say this, but slow down, brother. You're staring at an abyss. Woah Lewis, we love it when you're racing, but this God thing's just embarrassing. We all know that you're quicker than Nico. He has to admit it, he's not quite your equal, but only by a smidgen, and I'm not bitching, and he respects your right to have a religion. Just like Jesus loves the little children. Woah Lewis, now I'm doing it, it's all wrong. I've got a faith and it's carbon fiber strong. I believe in the church of F1. Woah Lewis, I don't wanna say this. Slow down, brother. You're staring at an abyss. Woah Lewis, we love it when you're racing, but this God thing's just embarrassing. When you were a lad, it was mad. The McLaren was the best car any driver had. The possible exception of the FW15. There again, he never drove for that team. I see you've been working out and you must be famished. You're hungry and hungry, then you vanished. With a chin strap beard, man, you look outlandish. I think I worked it out. Have you turned Amish? I don't wanna say this. Slow down, brother. You're standing at this. Woah Lewis, we love it when you're racing, but this God thing's just embarrassing. This is a game of science, not a game of thrones. The king you need is down for overtaking zones. Theological doctrine is no replacement for wind tunnel data and engine displacement. Don't let belief define your defiance. Don't rely on prayer, depend on science. Word. And that's the other thing that constantly bothers me. If you're from the home counties. Why do you speak like a homie? You're not sourdough, you're more bruschetta and prosecco. But you speak like you grew up in the ghetto. I'm getting worried you're the new Michael Jackson, but a lot more blush with an American accent. So Lewis, here's my pitch. Stay true to your roots, you come from Stevenage. Word. You're still the truest. Classmate brother, we want you to remember this. We love you, Lewis. We love it when you're racing. We'll take you as you are. We're just teasing.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site, follow us on Twitter, or to find out about sponsorship opportunities, go to GarethJones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!